Her hands pressed down on his chest, blood spread across sterile blue drapes in patterns she'd seen too many times before. "Stay with me, Sergeant Major." The monitor flatlined. Someone called the time. She didn't stop. For more stories like this, subscribe. 3 weeks earlier, the surgical theater felt too bright, too clean. Dr. Iris Cade adjusted her mask and kept her eyes on the instrument tray. The overhead lights caught every surface with a sterile intensity that made her think of desert sun on metal. "You're the replacement?" Dr. Richard Brennan stood across the table, already gloved, already judging. Chief of Surgical Services, 27 years at Metropolitan General. Johns Hopkins pedigree displayed on his office wall like battle honors. "Second-year resident, sir. Iris Cade." "I'm aware." He glanced at the patient chart, then back at her. 36 years old. "Career change?" "Something like that." "This program exists for second chances, Dr. Cade. Don't waste it." She nodded once. The attending surgeon made introductions around the table. Scrub nurse, anesthesiologist, third-year resident named Amara Okonkwo, who watched everything with dark, intelligent eyes. Iris pulled her sleeves down before scrubbing in. The water ran hot. She counted 30 seconds per hand, the way she'd learned in a very different place. Through the window, Amara was already positioning retractors. Efficient movements, no wasted motion. The sleeve rode up half an inch when Iris reached for the sterile towel. Just a flash of ink on her inner left wrist. Small, geometric. She tugged the surgical gown cuff down immediately. Too late. Amara had seen it. Just a flicker of recognition in her expression before she turned back to the surgical field. The case was routine. Cholecystectomy. Inflamed gallbladder in a 52-year-old accountant. Brennan worked with practiced precision, narrating each step for the residents. Iris held retraction exactly where indicated, asked no questions, made herself invisible. "Dr. Okonkwo." Brennan didn't look up from the operative field. "What do you notice about Dr. Cade's retraction technique?" Amara hesitated. "It's very steady, sir. Consistent pressure without drift." Indeed, Brennan ligated a vessel, almost military in its discipline. Iris kept her eyes on the surgical field, said nothing. The operation concluded in 90 minutes. Textbook. The patient went to recovery with excellent vital signs. Brennan stripped his gloves and left without further comment. Iris stayed to help close. The scrub nurse smiled at her. Small kindness in a cold room. In the locker room afterward, Amara sat on the bench beside her. "That tattoo," she said quietly. "I've seen that design before. My father was Army. Special Forces." Iris pulled on her street clothes. Long sleeves. "It's old. From another life. Those unit insignias aren't given lightly." "No, they're not." Amara studied her for a long moment. "Why are you here, in a second-year residency at 36? "Because I wanted to learn civilian medicine." Iris closed her locker. "That's all." "That's not all, but okay." The week continued in careful routine. Iris observed more than she operated. Took night shifts no one wanted. Studied protocols that felt both familiar and alien. Metropolitan General ran on hierarchy and procedure. Everything documented. Everything justified. No one shooting at you while you worked. No one bleeding out faster than you could repair them. Just steady, predictable medicine in a building with walls and electricity and supplies that didn't arrive by helicopter under fire. Friday morning, Brennan posted the surgical schedule. Iris found her name listed for Tuesday afternoon. Appendectomy. Routine. Age 19. Male. College student. Amara saw her looking at the board. "He's testing you. Appendectomies are straightforward, but they can surprise you. Lots of ways to prove yourself. Or fail. That too." Over the weekend, Iris reviewed appendectomy protocols. Standard approach, standard complications, standard outcomes. She'd performed the procedure before, but not in this context. Not with this level of documentation and oversight. Different rules here. Different expectations. She flexed. Flexed her left hand and felt the small tattoo pull against her skin. The crossed arrows and sword. The Latin words she'd earned in sand and blood. De oppresso liber. To free the oppressed. She'd freed a lot of people from a lot of things. Pain. Injury. Death when possible. Now she just wanted to be a regular surgeon in a regular hospital, living a regular life. Tuesday arrived with clear skies, the kind of weather that made trauma surgeons nervous because people did stupid things in sunshine. Iris arrived early, changed into scrubs, pulled her hair back tight. The patient was already in pre-op. Marcus Wade, 19. Business major. Presented to the ER 6 hours earlier with right lower quadrant pain. Classic McBurney's point tenderness. Elevated white count. All the textbook signs. Brennan met her outside the OR. It should be straightforward, Dr. Cade. I'll be observing from the gallery. Dr. Chen will handle anesthesia. You'll have a scrub nurse and Dr. Okonkwo assisting. Any questions? No, sir. Then, let's see what you can do. The theater felt different when she was in charge. Brighter, more exposed. Everyone watching to see if the 36-year-old career change could handle a simple case. Iris positioned herself at the table. Marcus was already under, abdomen prepped and draped. Scalpel. The weight felt right in her hand. Familiar. She made the incision at McBurney's point. Clean. Controlled. Exactly by protocol. Amara provided retraction. Good angles. Anticipating the next step. Iris deepened the dissection. Located the cecum. Followed it to where the appendix should be. There, she paused. Dr. Cade? Amara's voice was quiet. Something wrong? Iris stared at the appendix. Inflamed, yes, but not in the right way. The inflammation pattern was off. The mesenteric vessels showed unusual congestion. The pain migration, Iris said. In his history, it started periumbilical and moved right lower quadrant? Yes, classic presentation. How fast did it migrate? Amara checked the chart on the monitor. 6 hours from onset to ER arrival. Pain moved about 4 hours in. Too slow. Iris looked closer at the bowel, followed the small intestine proximally, moved the retractors to get better exposure. What are you looking for? Amara asked. Something else. She found it 18 inches from the ileocecal valve, a small outpouching of bowel, Meckel's diverticulum, and it was perforated. We need to extend the incision, Iris said. This isn't just appendicitis. In the gallery above, Brennan leaned forward. If you want to see how Iris saves a life everyone else would have missed, make sure you subscribe to Emergency Heroes Stories. Because what she does in the next few minutes will prove exactly why some skills can't be taught in a classroom. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. The resident lounge smelled like burnt coffee and anxiety. 3 surgical residents sat around a small table, voices low enough not to carry, but loud enough to share speculation. 6 weeks, said Dr. Peter Chen, first year. She's been here 6 weeks and Brennan's already giving her solo cases. Not solo. Corrected Dr. Sarah Vance, third year. He was watching from the gallery. That's basically a practical exam. Still, a 36-year-old second year doing an appy alone. Peter shook his head. What's her story? Career change from what? Sarah sipped her coffee. I heard she worked in urgent care somewhere rural. Decided she wanted real surgical training. Urgent care doesn't teach you to move like that. Amara stood in the doorway, lunch tray in hand. I was in the OR with her. Those hands have done more than suture lacerations. What do you mean? I mean her retraction technique is too controlled. Her instrument handling is too efficient. She positions herself at the table like someone who's worked in cramped spaces under bad conditions. Amara sat down. My father did 3 tours in Afghanistan. Special Forces medic. She moves like he did. Peter laughed. You think Cade is military? She's too quiet. Too what? I don't know. Broken, maybe. Amara's expression hardened. Careful. I'm just saying, there's something off about her. 36 years old, starting. Ing over in a second-year residency? People don't do that unless something went really wrong somewhere. Sarah leaned back. Maybe she just wanted a change. Not everyone has a tragic backstory. Everyone here has a story, Amara said quietly. We just don't always know what it is yet. Down the hall, Iris sat alone in the surgical library. The Meckel's case had gone well. Marcus Wade was recovering without complications. The perforated diverticulum had been resected. The bowel reanastomosed, the abdomen washed out thoroughly. Everything by protocol, except the part where she'd known to look for it. Brennan hadn't said anything afterward, just nodded once and left the gallery. That silence felt heavier than criticism. Her tablet showed the post-operative notes. She documented everything carefully. The unexpected finding, the extended procedure, the excellent outcome, all the details that would protect her if questions came later. And questions always came. The door opened. Brennan stepped inside. Dr. Cade. She stood. Sir, sit. He pulled out a chair across from her. That was good work today. Thank you. How did you know to look for the Meckels? The pain migration timeline didn't match, and the appendiceal inflammation pattern was reactive, not primary. Most second-year residents wouldn't have caught that distinction. I got lucky. Luck. Brennan folded his hands on the table. You've been here 6 weeks. You've assisted on 17 procedures. Every single one, you've demonstrated technical proficiency above your training level. So I'll ask again, where did you learn to operate like that? Iris met his eyes. I study hard, sir. I prepare extensively for every case. Nobody learns that kind of muscle memory from books. I had good teachers in medical school. Your file says you graduated from State Medical University 8 years ago. Then there's a gap. 7 years of nothing before you applied for residency here. He paused. What were you doing during those 7 years, Dr. Cade? Working, saving money, deciding if I really wanted surgical training. For 7 years. It's a big decision. Brennan studied her. You're not going to tell me, are you? There's nothing to tell. I'm just a resident trying to learn. He stood. All right. Keep your secrets, but understand something. This hospital has standards. We don't tolerate mysteries. If there's anything in your background that could compromise your position here, now is the time to disclose it. There isn't. Good. He moved toward the door, then stopped. You're scheduled for morning rounds tomorrow, 7 a.m. Don't be late. When he left, Iris let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The tablet screen showed Marcus Wade's latest vitals, stable. Improving. He'd go home in 3 days with a story about how his appendix almost killed him, but a surgeon caught something everyone else missed. He'd never know how close it had been. He'd never know she'd seen that exact presentation in a field hospital outside Kandahar when a young operator came in with belly pain, and she'd had 15 minutes to figure out what was wrong before sepsis killed him. Different country, different patient, same anatomy. Some lessons you learned once and carried forever. Tuesday evening, 6:47 p.m. Week 6 of residency. Iris changed in the locker room. Her scrubs went into the laundry bin. Street clothes back on. Long sleeves, always long sleeves, even though the weather was warm. Amara came in as she was closing her locker. Good case today, Amara said. Thanks. That Meckel save probably added another week to Brennan's confusion about you. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. You're trying to disappear. But you're too good at this. People are going to notice. Amara pulled off her scrub top. Look, I don't know what you're running from, and I'm not going to push. But whatever it is, hiding skills like yours seems like a waste. I'm not hiding. I'm learning. You're teaching whether you mean to or not. I've picked up 3 technique modifications just from watching you position instruments. Sarah Vance mentioned you hold retractors at an angle that gives better exposure with less tissue trauma, even. Peter, who thinks you're secretly a robot, admits your suturing is flawless. Iris smiled slightly. Peter thinks I'm a robot? He thinks everyone's a robot until they prove otherwise. It's his defense mechanism. Amara sat on the bench. My point is, you're making an impact here. You might as well accept it. I just want to do good work. Mission accomplished. Amara grabbed her bag. You coming to the resident dinner Friday? Whole group goes out. Talks about anything except medicine. It's actually survivable. Maybe. That means no. That means maybe. Amara laughed. Fair enough. Offer stands. When Iris left the hospital, the city was settling into evening. Traffic sounds, distant sirens, normal urban noise that used to feel chaotic, but now felt safe. No mortars, no gunfire, just car horns and conversations, and the steady rhythm of a place where violence was the exception, not the constant. She walked 3 blocks to the bus stop, waited with a dozen other people ending their shifts. Nobody knew her. Nobody asked questions. Just tired workers going home. The bus arrived. She found a seat by the window and watched the city pass. Her left wrist itched under the sleeve. The tattoo always itched when she thought about it too much. Psychosomatic, probably. The ink had healed years ago. But the weight of what it represented never really stopped pressing down. Crossed oios, vertical sword, Latin words in a semicircle, 547 days of combat deployment across 3 tours, 47 lives saved in field conditions that would make a civilian trauma bay look luxurious. 3 lives lost in 12 minutes of hell she still saw every time she closed her eyes. She pulled the sleeve down tighter and watched the city lights blur past the window. The extended incision gave her room to work. Iris retracted the small bowel carefully, exposing the perforated Meckel's diverticulum. A tissue around it showed early contamination. Not full sepsis yet, but close. Suction, she said. The scrub nurse complied. Amara adjusted the retractors without being asked. Good instinct, reading the field. In the gallery, Brennan leaned closer to the glass. 2 other attendings had joined him. Dr. Lisa Chen, the anesthesiologist, glanced up from her monitors. Vitals stable, Chen said. Heart rate 82, BP 118/74. He's tolerating the extended procedure well. Iris isolated the diverticulum. The perforation was small, maybe 4 millimeters, but it had been leaking long enough to cause localized peritonitis. She worked quickly, clamped the base, divided it, began the resection. Her movements had a rhythm to them. Economy of motion, no hesitation between steps. Each instrument returned to exactly the same position on the tray. Those sutures, one of the attending physicians muttered in the gallery. Look at the spacing. Military-style interrupted technique, the other replied. I've seen it before. Field hospital pattern. Designed for speed and security when you don't have time for running subcuticular. Brennan said nothing, just watched. Iris completed the resection in 11 minutes. She examined the remaining small bowel for additional Meckel's tissue. Found none. Began the anastomosis. Curved needle driver. Her fingers worked without conscious thought. Place the suture. Tie. Cut. Next one. The bowel edges came together perfectly. No tension, no gaps. Each stitch placed with geometric precision. Amara watched the technique carefully. This wasn't what they taught in surgical skills labs. This was something else. Something learned under different circumstances. Irrigation, Iris said. The scrub nurse handed her the bulb syringe. Iris washed out the abdomen thoroughly. Clear fluid in, clear fluid out. No remaining contamination visible. Closing, she announced. The fascia came together in layers. Muscle, fascia, subcutaneous, skin. Each layer secured properly. Each step textbook perfect except for the speed. Time, Brennan said in the gallery. Someone checked. 47 minutes from initial incision to final skin closure. For an appendectomy with unexpected Meckel's resection and bowel anastomosis. Brennan's voice was quiet. That should have taken 2 hours minimum. Mum, maybe longer, the other attending added, for a second-year resident working solo. Down in the OR, Iris stepped back from the table. He's ready for recovery. Post-op orders, NPO for 24 hours, antibiotics for 7 days, advanced diet is tolerated, follow-up in 2 weeks. Excellent work, Dr. Cade, Chen said from anesthesia. Very impressive. Iris nodded once, stripped her gloves, left the OR, while the nurses completed the transfer protocols in the scrub room. She washed her hands longer than necessary. The water ran cold over her wrists. She stared at the drain and saw nothing. Just another case. Just another person who'd wake up alive because someone noticed what others missed. That's all it ever was. The door opened. Brennan entered. That was exceptional, he said. Thank you, sir. Where did you learn to operate like that? I've had good training. Not that good. Not for a second-year resident. He dried his hands. I've been doing this for 27 years, Dr. Cade. I've trained at Hopkins, consulted at Mass General, operated at Cleveland Clinic. I recognize skill when I see it. What I just watched wasn't second-year proficiency. That was senior attending level work with field surgery efficiency. Iris kept washing her hands. I'm not accusing you of anything, Brennan continued. I'm trying to understand, because if you're this skilled, why are you here? Why start over in a residency program designed for career changers? Because I wanted to learn civilian protocols properly. Civilian protocols. He studied her. Implying you learned non-civilian protocols somewhere else. She turned off the water. Dry her hands carefully. I've had varied experience, sir, that's all. Military. It wasn't a question. Iris met his eyes. I'd prefer not to discuss my background. It's not relevant to my work here. Not relevant? Your background is the only thing that explains your skill level. My skill level comes from study and practice, same as everyone else. No, not the same. Brennan moved closer. I'm not trying to expose you, Dr. Cade. I'm trying to utilize you properly. If you have advanced training, we should acknowledge it. Maybe accelerate your residency timeline, get you into fellowship sooner. I don't want acceleration. I want to complete the standard program. Why? Because I want to do this right. Brennan was quiet for a moment. All right, we'll do it your way. But understand that secret or not, People are noticing. You can't hide excellence. It shows. He left. Iris stood alone in the scrub room. Her reflection stared back from the mirror above the sink. Tired eyes, hair pulled back tight, face she barely recognized anymore. The sleeve had ridden up slightly during the case. The tattoo showed. Just the top edge. Crossed arrows. She pulled the sleeve down and returned to the locker room. Marcus Wade woke up in recovery 2 hours later. Iris checked on him during evening rounds. He was groggy, but stable. His mother sat beside the bed, holding his hand. "Thank you," the mother said. "They told me you found something the others missed, that he would have gotten much sicker if you hadn't caught it. He presented with unusual symptoms. I'm glad we found it in time. They said you're new here. A resident." "Yes, ma'am." "Well, you saved my son's life. New or not, you're a miracle to us." Iris felt the weight of those words. Miracle. She'd heard it before. From other families, other patients. People who thought what she did was extraordinary, when really it was just pattern recognition and refusing to accept the obvious answer when the details didn't fit. "He'll recover completely," Iris said. "Follow the post-op instructions, and he'll be back at school in 3 weeks." She left before the gratitude could get heavier. The resident lounge was empty. She sat in the corner and opened her tablet, logged the case notes, documented every detail, made everything official. The door opened. Amara came in with 2 coffees, handed one to Iris. "You don't have to keep doing that," Iris said. "Doing what?" "Being kind. I'm fine on my own." "I know you are, but you don't have to be." Amara sat across from her. "That case today, I've never seen anything like it. The way you found that Meckles, the speed of your resection, the precision of your anastomosis. That's not normal second-year work." "I got lucky." "Stop saying that. Luck is finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk. What you did today was skill. Pure, undeniable, highly trained skill." Amara sipped her coffee. "My father used to talk about the field surgeons he worked with. Special operations medics who could do in 15 minutes what took civilian surgeons an hour. He said they moved like you move. Fast but controlled. Efficient but thorough." Iris said nothing. "I'm not going to push," Amara continued. "But I want you to know that whatever you're hiding, it's safe with me. And more importantly, it's something to be proud of, not ashamed." "I'm not ashamed." "Then what are you?" Iris looked at her coffee. "Tired." "Fair enough." Amara stood. "Get some rest. Rounds tomorrow at 7. Brennan's doing teaching cases, so expect questions." When she left, Iris sat alone in the quiet room. The coffee was still hot. She drank it slowly and watched the city lights through the window. Somewhere out there, Marcus Wade was sleeping peacefully, healing, alive. That was enough. It had to be enough. 3 weeks passed in careful routine. Iris completed 12 more cases, all successful, all documented, all adding to the quiet reputation building around her name. The residents stopped speculating out loud, but their glances said enough. Brennan assigned her progressively complex procedures. Amara requested to assist on every case she could. Even Peter Chen admitted her technique was worth studying. Tuesday afternoon, 4:17 p.m. Week 9 of residency. Iris was reviewing post-op films in the reading room when the overhead speakers crackled. Trauma alert. Multiple casualties, ETA 6 minutes. All available surgical staff to trauma bay immediately. Repeat, trauma alert. The radiology resident looked up. That's the 3rd one this month. Construction season. Iris was already moving. Down 2 flights of stairs, through the connector hallway, into the organized chaos of the emergency department. Nurses prepped bays. Techs wheeled equipment into position. Attendings gathered near the ambulance entrance. Brennan stood at the central station, phone to his ear. He saw Iris and waved her over. Construction site collapse. Partial building failure on the East Side project. 7 casualties confirmed. 3 critical. We're getting the worst ones. He listened to the phone. Understood. Cade, you'll take Bay 4. Stable patient, minor injuries. Focus on assessment and discharge. Yes, sir. Okonkwo, you're with Dr. Harrison in Bay 2. Chen, Bay 3 with Dr. Vincent. The doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in with the first stretcher. Male, approximately 60 years old, construction supervisor. Steel rebar impalement through right chest. BP 70/40. Pulse 130 and thready. 2 liters saline en route. No improvement. The patient was conscious, barely, gray-faced. A 3-foot section of rebar protruded from his upper right chest, entry point just below the clavicle. Someone had stabilized it with tape and gauze. But it moved slightly with each shallow breath. Iris saw his face, weathered, strong jaw, military bearing even in shock. Their eyes met for half a second. His widened. Recognition flickered. You. Then he was passed, wheeled into Bay 1 where the senior trauma team waited. Iris forced herself to Bay 4, who assigned patient. A young laborer with a lacerated forearm, 15 stitches, tetanus shot, discharge paperwork. She cleaned the wound, prepped for suturing. But her attention kept drifting to Bay 1. The rebar patient was deteriorating. She could hear the monitor alarms, voices rising, organized urgency shifting toward controlled panic. BP dropping, 60/35. Push another liter wide open. Chest tube ready. Bay 4's patient winced as she injected lidocaine. Sorry, is this going to take long? I need to call my supervisor. 20 minutes, Iris said. Stay still. She began suturing. Neat, efficient, automatic. In Bay 1, the senior surgeon's voice cut through. We can't remove the rebar here. He needs OR, but he's too unstable for transport. He's not stable enough to stay here either. Iris finished the 7th stitch. More alarms from Bay 1. Different pattern, worse pattern. He's arresting. Start compressions. She placed the 8th stitch. How long? 4 minutes. Bay 4's patient scrolled his phone. My wife's going to freak out when she sees these pictures. 9th stitch. Still no pulse. Push epi. Nothing. Flatline. 10th stitch. 6 minutes. Dr. Harrison, he's gone. Keep going. 2 more minutes. Iris tied off the 11th stitch. Her hands moved automatically while her mind counted seconds in Bay 1. 20, 30, 45. 8 minutes. We need to call it. 1 more round. Iris finished the final suture, cut the thread, applied sterile dressing. You're all set. Nurse Torres will give you discharge instructions and a tetanus shot. Keep it dry for 48 hours. Thanks, Doc. She stripped her gloves, walked toward Bay 1. The curtain was partially open. She could see the team, 6 people surrounding the stretcher, the senior surgeon doing compressions, another managing the airway. The rebar still protruding from the patient's chest. 9 minutes, someone said quietly. The surgeon stopped compressions, checked the monitor. No electrical activity. Time of death, 4:34 p.m. Iris stepped into the bay. He's not gone. Every head turned. Brennan stood near the wall observing. Dr. Cade, return to your assignment. Give me 2 more minutes. He's been down for 9 minutes with a rebar through his chest. There's nothing. 2 minutes. Iris moved to the bedside, looked at the patient's face. Gray, lifeless. But she'd seen that before, seen people come back from further. The senior surgeon, Dr. Harrison, was 50-something, competent, traditional. He stared at her. Excuse me? I can bring him back. 2 minutes. If you're wondering how a second-year resident is about to challenge a senior trauma surgeon and perform a procedure that will change everything, make sure you're subscribed to Emergency Heroes Stories, because what happens next will show you exactly why some knowledge can only be learned in the worst places imaginable. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Iris stepped fully into Bay 1. The rebar patient lay motionless. Monitor flat. Team standing back. She looked at Brennan. Sir, I know how to save him. Dr. Cade, this man has been pulseless for 9 minutes with a penetrating chest injury. The standard of care. The standard of care doesn't account for battlefield resurrection protocols. I've done this before, multiple times. I know what I'm doing. The room went completely silent. Harrison found his voice first. Battlefield? What are you talking about? Iris ignored him, kept her eyes on Brennan. 2 minutes, sir. If I'm wrong, you can remove me from the program. But if I'm right, this man goes home to his family. Brennan studied her. The calculation was visible on his face. Risk versus reward. Liability versus outcome. You have 90 seconds, he said finally. After that, I'm calling it. Iris moved. I need a scalpel, rib spreader, and internal paddles. Now. The scrub nurse hesitated. Harrison started to protest. Now, Brennan repeated. The equipment appeared. Iris positioned herself at the right side of the stretcher. The rebar made approach difficult, but not impossible. Amara, she called. Amara pushed through from bay 2. Here. Left side. When I open the chest, you stabilize the rebar. Don't let it shift. Got it. Iris looked at the anesthesiologist. Dr. Chen, I need you to push epi and bicarb on my mark. Chen nodded, hands already moving to the medication cart. 60 seconds, Brennan said quietly. Iris made the incision. The scalpel cut through skin and muscle in one motion. Iris extended the incision along the 5th intercostal space. Blood welled up, but not arterial. Not the catastrophic bleeding that meant game over. Rib spreader. The nurse handed it over. Iris positioned the retractor and cranked it open. Ribs separated with a sound that made 2 people in the bay look away. The chest cavity opened. The rebar angled through the upper lobe of the right lung, missing the major vessels by centimeters. E-meters. Lucky. Impossibly lucky. Amara, stabilize. Amara gripped the rebar with both hands, held it motionless. Iris reached into the chest, found the heart. It wasn't moving, just sitting there, a fist-sized muscle that had given up. She began internal compressions, direct cardiac massage. Her hand squeezed in rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dr. Chen, push epi now. Pushing. Iris felt the heart under her palm. Still nothing. Just dead weight. Bicarb. Going in. 15 seconds. 20. The heart quivered. Not a beat. Just a flutter. Electrical activity without mechanical function. Again, another round of epi. That's a high dose. Do it. Chen pushed the medication. Iris compressed. Felt the muscle. Willed it to respond. 30 seconds. 45 seconds remaining, Brennan said. His voice was steady, but his knuckles were white, where he gripped the bedside rail. The heart jumped. 1 weak contraction, then another. There, Iris breathed. Come on. Another beat. Stronger. The rhythm catching. I've got a pulse, Chen said. Eyes on the monitor. Weak, but it's there. The line on the screen jumped. Irregular at first, then finding a pattern. Sinus rhythm. Slow, but present. Iris kept her hand on the heart, felt it strengthening under her palm. Each contraction firmer than the last. BP 50/30, Chen reported. Rising. 55/32. 60/35. The room exhaled collectively. Iris looked at the rebar. We need to remove this in a controlled environment. He needs the OR now, but he's stable enough to move. Harrison stared at her. What did you just? Damage control resuscitation. Permissive hypotension protocol. We don't need normal blood pressure. We just need enough perfusion to keep the brain alive while we get him to definitive care. Iris stepped back from the table. Someone page the OR. Tell them we're coming up with a rebar impalement requiring emergency thoracotomy and vascular exploration. Brennan pulled out his phone, made the call. Amara still held the rebar steady. Her arms were shaking slightly. Iris, how long have I been holding this? 2 more minutes. You're doing great. The patient's eyelids flickered. Everyone froze. His lips moved. No sound at first, just air. Then, barely audible, Kandahar. Iris leaned closer. Sir, you're at Metropolitan General Hospital. You were injured in a construction accident. We're going to take care of you. His eyes opened halfway, focused on her face. 2013, Kandahar. You saved my life. The bay went silent. You're confused, sir. The anesthesia. No. His voice was stronger. You're shorter than I remember. Different hair. But I know your eyes, and that tattoo. He looked at her left wrist. 5th group. Dia Presso Liber. Iris's sleeve had ridden up during the procedure. The crossed arrows were visible. The sword. The Latin inscription. Harrison saw it. Stepped closer. That's a Special Forces insignia. The patient coughed. Blood flecked his lips. She was attached to our unit. Forward surgical team. I took shrapnel from an IED. Femoral artery compromised. I was bleeding out. She operated on me in a ditch while we were still taking fire. He coughed again. Sergeant Major Victor Hayes. 5th Special Forces Group, retired. And this woman right here is the reason I got to retire instead of getting buried. Every eye in the bay turned to Iris. She pulled her sleeve down. You're disoriented, Mr. Hayes. We need to get you to surgery. The hell I'm disoriented. I carried a picture of my surgical team for 12 years. You were in it, younger, but it's you. His hand moved weakly toward his pants pocket. My wallet, left front pocket. A nurse retrieved it, opened it carefully. Inside, tucked behind his driver's license, was a photograph. Worn, folded, creased from being carried everywhere. The nurse held it up. 7 people in desert camouflage, standing in front of a medical tent. Dust and heat visible in the air around them. Fourth from the left, a woman, 30 years old, short dark hair, pale blue eyes, wearing lieutenant's bars, unmistakably Iris. Brennan took the photograph, studied it, looked at Iris, back at the photo. Lieutenant. Hayes whispered. That's what we called. Aldew, Lieutenant Cade, you hated it. Said you were staff sergeant, not lieutenant. But the officers insisted because you had the medical degree. Harrison's voice was quiet. Staff sergeant, that's enlisted. But you're a doctor, that means. Special Operations Combat Medic, Hayes finished. 18 Delta with medical school. Rarest qualification in the Army. Only a handful per decade. They attached her to our direct action teams because she could operate anywhere. Field hospitals, forward bases, inside buildings during active firefights. I watched her do an emergency thoracotomy in the back of a moving MRAP while we were getting shot at. He coughed. Best damn surgeon I ever met. Military or civilian. Iris said nothing, just stood there, exposed, while the truth she'd buried for 5 years bled out into the open. Brennan handed the photograph back to the nurse. His face was unreadable. Dr. Cade, how long were you enlisted? 11 years. Sir, 2008 to 2019. 3 combat tours? Yes, sir. And you didn't think this was relevant information when you applied for residency? I wanted to be evaluated on my current skills, not my past experience. Your current skills are your past experience. Brennan's voice was still calm, but there was something new in it. Not anger, something closer to awe. How many combat surgeries? Iris hesitated. Hayes answered for her. The rumor in the teams was over 300, maybe more. She stopped counting after Fallujah. Over 300, Harrison repeated slowly. And you're here as a second-year resident. Because I wanted to learn civilian medicine properly, without shortcuts, without assumptions. Iris met Brennan's eyes. I wanted to earn my place here the same way everyone else does. You've earned considerably more than a place, Brennan said quietly. You've earned an explanation. But that comes later. Right now, we have a patient who needs surgery. He looked at Hayes. Mr. Hayes, we're taking you to the OR. Dr. Cade will be part of the surgical team. Is that acceptable to you? Hayes smiled weakly. Sir, I wouldn't let anyone else touch me. Good. Brennan turned to the nurses. Prep him for transport. Harrison, you'll lead the thoracotomy, I'll assist. Cade, you're scrubbing in. Sir, I'm only a second year. You're a combat surgeon with more trauma experience than half my attending staff. You're scrubbing in. That's an order. The team mobilized. Hayes was prepped for transport. The rebar was secured. Within 3 minutes, they were moving toward the elevators. Amara caught Iris's arm as they walked. You were Special Forces medical? Attached, not actual SF. That's a distinction without a difference. Amara's voice was filled with something Iris hadn't heard before. Respect. Pure. Unfiltered respect. My father talked about people like you. Said they were the reason operators took risks. Because they knew if something went wrong, the medics would move heaven and earth to bring them home. I just did my job. Yeah, for 11 years, in the worst places on earth. Amara smiled. And now I understand why you move like you do. They reached the OR floor. Hayes was wheeled into pre-op. Iris went to scrub in. Brennan found her at the sink. After this surgery, you and I are having a very long conversation, he said. Yes, sir. But for the record, what you did down there, refusing to give up when everyone else had, that's not just skill. That's character. He began scrubbing beside her. We're lucky to have you here, Dr. Cade. However you got here. Iris nodded, kept scrubbing. Through the OR window, she could see Hayes being positioned on the table. Still alive, still fighting, just like Kandahar. Some things never changed. The OR was colder than the trauma bay. Iris stood at the table, Harrison on the opposite side, Brennan to her right. The anesthesia team worked behind the drapes. Hayes was intubated, sedated, draped. The rebar still protruded from his chest, like some grotesque monument to bad luck. Vitals stable, Dr. Chen reported. BP 95/60, heart rate 88, oxygen saturation 94% on mechanical ventilation. Harrison looked at Iris across the table. You brought him back from a 9-minute arrest. Now. Help me understand how we remove this rebar without him bleeding out on the table." "The entry point is subclavian," Iris said. "The angle suggests it passed through the apex of the right lung and stopped against the posterior chest wall. If it had hit the subclavian artery or superior vena cava, he'd already be dead. We got lucky." "Lucky." Harrison's tone was neutral. "Or you assessed the trajectory in 3 seconds and knew he was salvageable." "Both." Brennan spoke quietly. "What's the approach, Dr. Cade?" Every head turned slightly. The chief of surgery was asking a second-year resident for the operative plan. Iris didn't hesitate. "We extend the trauma thoracotomy I started. Get proximal and distal control of the subclavian vessels before we remove the rebar. Have vascular clamps ready. The second we pull it out, there's going to be bleeding. We control it immediately, assess the damage, and repair what we can. If the lung is too compromised, we do a wedge resection. If the vessels are damaged, we patch or bypass depending on severity." "Time estimate?" Brennan asked. 2 hours if everything goes well. 4 if it doesn't. Harrison studied her. "You've done this before." 3 times, twice with shrapnel, once with rebar from a collapsed building in Mosul. Iris met his eyes. All 3 survived. "Then let's make it 4 for 4. Harrison nodded to the scrub nurse. "Extend the thoracotomy. Dr. Cade, walk us through it." Iris took the scalpel. The incision from the trauma bay was already there. She extended it, opening the chest completely. Ribs spread. The lung was visible now, deflated, a section of rebar piercing through the upper lobe. "First priority is vascular control," she said. "Amara, retract here. I need exposure of the subclavian arteriole." Amara positioned the retractor perfectly. The anatomy revealed itself. Subclavian artery intact, pulsing steadily. The rebar had missed it by less than a centimeter. "Clamp ready," Iris said. The nurse handed it over. "On my count, we remove the rebar. Dr. Chen, be ready to push blood products. We're going to lose volume fast." Iris positioned her hands. 3, 2, 1. Harrison pulled the rebar straight back. It slid free with a wet sound that made the medical student in the corner go pale. Blood filled the chest cavity immediately. "Suction," Iris said. Her voice was calm, steady, like she was ordering coffee, not staring at a chest full of blood. The suction cleared the field. The bleeding was coming from the lung parenchyma. Moderate, not catastrophic. "Lung repair first," Iris said. "We can oversew this. No resection needed." Her hands moved. Sutures placed rapidly, each one stopping a bleeder. The hemorrhage slowed, stopped. The lung tissue held. "Beautiful work," Brennan murmured. Iris checked the vessels. No arterial damage, no venous injuries. "Just pulmonary trauma. Manageable. Chest tube placement," she said. "We need to re-expand this lung and monitor for air leaks." Harrison placed the tube. Perfect position. Connected it to suction. The lung began to inflate. "Closing," Iris announced. The layers came together. Muscle, fascia, subcutaneous, skin. Each step deliberate, secure. "Time," Brennan said. 1 hour 43 minutes, someone answered. The room was quiet except for the rhythmic beep of monitors. Hayes's vital signs were strong, stable. He was going to make it. Iris stepped back from the table, stripped her gloves. Her hands were steady, but something inside her was shaking. Harrison looked at her across the sterile field. Staff Sergeant Iris Cade, former Special Operations combat medic. 3 combat tours, over 300 surgeries. He paused. "Why are you here?" "Because I wanted to learn how to save lives when no one's shooting at me." "You already knew how." "That much is obvious. I knew battlefield medicine, damage control, keep them alive long enough to get to a real hospital." Iris met his eyes. "I wanted to be the real hospital, to do the definitive care, not just the emergency patch job. That requires different training, different thinking." Brennan removed his surgical mask. "You could have applied as an attending. With your experience, most programs would have fast-tracked you through." "Rough credentialing." "I didn't want fast-tracking. I wanted to do it right. From the beginning. Learn civilian standards without cutting corners." Iris's voice was quiet but firm. "In the field, you do what you have to do to keep someone alive. Here, you have time to do it perfectly. I wanted to learn perfect." The scrub nurse began cleaning instruments. The anesthesia team prepared Hayes for transfer to ICU. Normal post-op routine, but nothing about this felt routine. The incident in Helmand Province, Brennan said carefully. The one that ended your military service. What happened? Iris's jaw tightened. 3 operators came in during a firefight. Multiple GSWs, traumatic amputations, severe hemorrhagic shock. I was the only surgeon. No backup, limited supplies. I triaged, saved 2, lost 1. She paused. The one I lost was the team leader. His family filed a complaint, said I prioritized wrong. The investigation cleared me. But the damage was done. I couldn't stay after that. You made an impossible choice, Harrison said quietly. 2 lives versus 3 deaths. Any rational person would call that success. His 8-year-old daughter called it murder. Iris's voice was flat. She wrote me a letter, said I killed her daddy. She was right. I chose. I played God. I decided who lived and who died based on calculations made in 30 seconds. The OR went silent. And you've been carrying that ever since, Brennan said. Every day. Is that why you're here? Penance? No. Iris looked at Hayes, stable on the table, alive because she'd refused to quit. I'm here because that little girl deserved to have her father come home. I couldn't give her that. But maybe I can give other families their person. Maybe if I save enough people the right way, in the right place, with the right resources, eventually it'll balance out. It already has. Amara said from the corner. Do you know how many lives you saved in 11 years? Not just the 300 surgeries. Think about every operator you patched up who went on to live another 30 years, who had kids, grandkids. Every single one of those downstream lives exists because you were good enough to bring their grandfather or father or uncle home from a war zone. Iris said nothing. Hayes was wheeled toward recovery. The team dispersed. Only Brennan, Harrison, and Iris remained in the OR. Tomorrow morning, Brennan said. My office, 8 a.m. We need to discuss your position here. Am I being removed from the program? Removed? Brennan almost smiled. Dr. Cade, I'm going to offer you something. Whether you accept it is up to you. But show up tomorrow and we'll talk. He left. Harrison stayed. For what it's worth, what you did today was remarkable. Not just the surgery, the refusal to give up. That's the difference between good surgeons and great ones. Good surgeons follow protocols. Great ones know when to break them. I just didn't want him to die. No, you knew he didn't have to die. There's a difference. Harrison headed for the door, then stopped. That little girl who wrote you the letter. She was 8. She's 13 now. Old enough to understand that sometimes there are no good choices, only less terrible ones. Maybe it's time you forgave yourself. He left Iris alone in the empty OR. She stood there for a long moment. The lights were too bright, the silence too heavy. Her reflection stared back from the stainless steel equipment. Staff Sergeant Iris Cade, Lieutenant Cade, Dr. Cade. All the same person. All the same hands. All trying to do the same impossible thing. Keep people alive when the universe wanted them dead. She pulled off her surgical gown and walked out. The next morning arrived cold and gray. Iris stood outside Brennan's office at 7:55 a.m. Through the frosted glass, she could see 2 silhouettes, Brennan and someone else. She knocked at exactly 8. Come in. Brennan sat behind his desk. Harrison occupied one of the visitor chairs. On the desk between them lay a file folder, a laptop open to what looked like military service records, and Victor Hayes' photograph from yesterday. Sit, Brennan said. Iris took the remaining chair. I spent most of last night reviewing your file, Brennan began. Your actual file. Not the abbreviated version you submitted with your residency application. I called in some favors at the Department of Defense, got access to your service record. He turned the laptop toward her. Her military profile filled the screen. Dates of service, deployments, commendations. The full accounting of 11 years she'd tried to leave behind. Staff Sergeant Iris Cade, 18 Delta, Special Operations Combat Medic with physician qualification. Attached to 5th Special Forces Group, 2nd Battalion. 3 combat deployments totaling 547 days in theater. 47 documented combat life-saving interventions. 3 Army Commendation Medals. 2 Bronze Stars. 1 Silver Star for actions during the Helmand Province engagement, where you sustained fire for 90 minutes while performing surgery on 4 critically wounded operators in a compromised position. Iris kept her face neutral. I told you I wanted to be evaluated on my current performance, not my history. Your history is your current performance, Harrison interjected. Everything we've seen from you makes sense now. The speed, the precision, the ability to function under pressure that would paralyze most residents. You weren't trained in comfortable teaching hospitals. You were forged in combat. Which is exactly why I wanted to start over, Iris said quietly. Combat medicine and civilian medicine are different. Different philosophies, different standards. I didn't want my military experience to become a crutch or an excuse. I wanted to prove I could meet civilian standards without relying on what I learned in war zones. Brennan leaned back. You've proven that, extensively. Which brings me to why you're here. He closed the laptop. Metropolitan General is opening a new tactical medicine and trauma response program. We're creating a fellowship track specifically designed to train emergency physicians and surgeons in high-pressure, resource-limited crisis medicine, mass casualty events, natural disasters, active shooter scenarios, situations where traditional protocols break down and providers need to think like field surgeons. Iris felt her stomach tighten. Sir, I'm not interested in returning to. I want you to lead it, Gannon interrupted. Not as a participant, as director. We'll convert your residency to an attending position with full surgical privileges. You'll design the curriculum, choose your staff, train the next generation of trauma surgeons to function in the worst possible circumstances. The office was silent. You want me to teach people how to do what I did? Iris said slowly. I want you to teach them how to save lives when everything goes wrong. When resources are limited, when backup isn't coming, when the textbook answer doesn't exist. Brennan's voice was firm. Yesterday, you performed an emergency thoracotomy in a trauma bay and brought back a patient who'd been pulseless for 9 minutes. Then you removed a rebar impalement in under 2 hours with 0 complications. That's not luck, that's mastery, and it's exactly what we need. I came here to leave that life behind. Did you? Harrison asked. Or did you come here because you couldn't save everyone in Helmand, and you thought if you started over in a place without bullets, maybe you could finally be good enough? The words hit harder than Iris expected. You're already good enough, Harrison continued. You've always been good enough. That operator who died, he was gone before he arrived. Traumatic brain injury and exsanguination. I read the after-action report. There was never a moment where he was salvageable. You didn't kill him. You just couldn't perform a miracle. I should have. You should have nothing. You did everything possible with the information and resources available. Harrison's voice was gentle but unyielding. You saved 2 lives that night. 2 men who went home to their families, who are alive right now because you made the right call under impossible pressure. That little girl lost her father, and that's a tragedy. But 2 other little girls still have theirs. That's not murder. That's medicine. Iris looked down at her hands. The same hands that had held a scalpel in a firefight. The same hands that had compressed Victor Hayes' heart. Yesterday, always the same choice. Who lives, who dies, and how to carry the weight of that decision. I don't know if I can teach this, she said quietly. Teaching means I have to believe I did it right. I'm not sure I do. Brennan pulled a document from the folder. This arrived by email this morning, from Colonel Michael Strand, commander of 5th Special Forces Group. He heard about yesterday's incident. Apparently, the veteran community talks. He slid the paper across the desk. Read it. Iris picked up the printout. The email was short. Dr. Brennan, I understand one of your residents is former SSG Illis Cade. I commanded the unit she was attached to during her final deployment. I need you to know that Sergeant Cade is directly responsible for saving 47 operators during her time with us. 47 men who came home because she refused to quit when any reasonable person would have. The incident in Helmand Province was investigated thoroughly. She was cleared of all wrongdoing because she made the only correct decision available. We tried to keep her, offered her a commission, promotion to major, assignment to Walter Reed. She declined, said she couldn't carry the weight anymore. If she's with you now, she's trying to find a way to forgive herself for being human. Help her do that. The men she saved deserve to have her remember them instead of the one she couldn't. Respectfully, Colonel Michael Strand. Iris set the paper down. Her hands were shaking slightly. 47 people, Brennan said quietly. 47 families who still have their father, brother, son, husband. That's your legacy, Dr. Cade. Not one impossible case, 47 miracles. Plus 2 more yesterday, Harrison added. Hayes is in ICU, stable, expected to make full recovery. And Marcus Wayne, your Meckles patient from 3 weeks ago, is doing so well he sent you a thank you card. It's at the nurse's station. Iris closed her eyes, tried to breathe through the weight pressing on her chest. I need 3 conditions, she said finally. Brennan nodded. Name them. First, autonomy. I designed the program my way. No interference from administration unless it's a safety or legal issue. Agreed. Second, veteran hiring priority. If a qualified veteran applies for any position in the program, they get first consideration. Military medical experience isn't a liability, it's an asset. Done. Third, no press, no interviews, no profiles, no publicity about my background. This program is about the medicine, not about me. Brennan glanced at Harrison, who shrugged. We can agree to that. Though I should mention, Hayes has been telling every nurse and doctor who enters his room that you saved his life twice in 2 different wars. Word is already spreading. Let it spread organically. I just don't want to be the story. The program should be the story. Fair enough. Brennan extended his hand. Welcome to the attending staff, Dr. Cade. When can you start? Iris shook his hand. I need 2 weeks to transition my current cases and review the program requirements. 2 weeks. Done. Brennan smiled slightly. For what it's worth, I think this is the right choice. Not just for the hospital, for you. I hope you're right. She stood, walked to the door. Dr. Cade, Harrison called. One more thing. That letter from the 8-year-old girl. The one who called you a murderer. Do you still have it? Yes. Burn it. Forgive yourself. Move forward. He paused. The men you saved have. Maybe it's time you did too. Iris nodded once and left. In the hallway. Amara was waiting. Well, I'm the new director of tactical medicine and trauma response. Amara's face split into a huge smile. Seriously? Seriously. Can I apply to be your first fellow? You're overqualified, but yes. They walked toward the ICU. Hayes was awake, sitting up slightly, oxygen cannula in place. He saw Iris and smiled. There she is. Told you she'd save me twice. How are you feeling, Mr. Hayes? Like I got hit by a building, but alive, so I'm not complaining. He gestured to the chair beside his bed. Sit. We need to talk. Iris sat. Hayes pulled a worn wallet from his bedside table, opened it, removed the photograph. I carried this for 12 years. Every single person in this picture is alive because of you. Everyone. Jackson, Martinez, Cooper, Williams, everyone. We all went home. We all had lives after Kandahar. He handed her the photo. Keep it. Remember that when the bad memories come. Iris took the photograph, stared at her younger self, surrounded by operators. Everyone smiling despite the dust and heat and constant danger. Everyone alive. Thank you, she whispered. No. Thank you. Hayes settled back into his pillows. Now go save some more people. You're too good at it to stop. 6 months later, the Tactical Medicine and Trauma Response Center occupied the entire 3rd floor of Metropolitan General's research wing. Iris stood in the simulation lab, watching 3 residents work through a mass casualty scenario. Gunshot wounds, limited supplies, no backup coming. The same impossible choices she'd faced 100 times. Triage, she called out. You have 3 patients, 2 hands, and 5 minutes. Who gets care first? A young resident, former Army medic named Sarah Chen, assessed quickly. Red tag patient gets immediate intervention. Yellow tag gets pressure dressings and monitoring. Black tag gets comfort care. Why? Because red tag is salvageable with immediate treatment. Yellow can wait. Black is expectant regardless of intervention. Correct. But what if black tag is a 17-year-old kid and red tag is a 50-year-old with multiple comorbidities? Sarah hesitated, the ethical weight of the question visible on her face. Same answer, she said finally. Age and comorbidity don't change salvageability in the acute phase. We save who we can save, not who we wish we could save. Iris nodded. Good. Remember that when it's real. Medicine isn't fair. Triage isn't fair. Your job is to make the best decision with the information available, then live with it. The simulation ended. Residents stripped off their gloves and gathered for debrief. Dr. Chen, excellent prioritization. Work on your hemorrhage control speed. Dr. Martinez, good airway management. But you tunnel visioned on the intubation and missed the tension pneumothorax developing in patient 2. Dr. Okonkwo, outstanding overall performance. You're ready for real-world scenarios. Amara smiled. She'd been Iris's first fellow, now 6 months in and performing at senior level. Next session is Thursday. Read chapters 6 through 9 in the field manual. Dismissed. The residents filed out. Iris began resetting the simulation equipment. Brennan appeared in the doorway. How's the new class? Strong, Chen has good instincts. Martinez needs more confidence. Okonkwo is ready to graduate early if she wants. She wants to stay the full year, says she's learning things no other program teaches. Brennan stepped into the lab. Speaking of which, I got a call from Johns Hopkins this morning. They want to send a delegation to observe your program, possibly implement something similar. Tell them they can observe one session, no cameras, no recordings, and they sign NDAs about patient scenarios. Done. Brennan watched her work. You've trained 12 residents, 6 fellows, and 8 attending physicians in 6 months. Your trauma survival rate improvement is 31% hospital-wide. The program is being studied by FEMA, Department of Defense, and 3 international medical organizations. He paused. How does it feel? Iris considered the question. Like I'm finally doing what I was supposed to be doing all along. Not war, not hiding. Just teaching people how to save lives when everything goes wrong. You're good at it. I had practice. A nurse knocked on the doorframe. Dr. Cade? There's someone here to see you. Says it's personal. Iris glanced at Brennan, who shrugged. I'll finish the reset. Go. The visitor waited in Iris's office. A woman, mid-30s, professional attire. She stood when Iris entered. Dr. Cade? I'm Rebecca Morrison. I think you knew my father. Captain James Morrison, 5th Special Forces Group. Iris went still. Morrison, Helmand Province. The operator who died. I know who you are, Iris said quietly. You were 8 when your father deployed. I was, and I wrote you a letter after he died. A horrible letter. I said things that... Rebecca's voice cracked. I said you killed him, that you chose wrong, that you should have saved him instead of the others. You were grieving. You were a child. You had every right. No, I didn't. Rebecca wiped her eyes. I've spent the last 6 years in medical school because of you. Because I wanted to understand what happened that night. I wanted to know if you really made a mistake, or if I blamed you for something that wasn't your fault. She pulled a folder from her bag. These are my father's medical records from that mission. I got them through a FOIA request. Took 3 years, but I finally saw them. She handed the folder to Iris. Traumatic brain injury with herniation. Bilateral hemothorax. Severed femoral artery. Estimated blood loss over 80% of total volume before arrival at surgical. Rebecca's voice was steady now. Professional. He was dead before the helicopter landed. The only reason he still had a pulse was because the flight medic did continuous CPR for 11 minutes. You didn't kill him, Dr. Cade. You performed a miracle on 2 men who could be saved, while providing comfort care to one who was already gone. Iris stared at the records. The same information she'd reviewed 1,000 times. The same impossible math. The other 2 operators you saved that night, Rebecca continued. Staff Sergeant David Williams and Sergeant First Class Marcus Chen. Williams has 3 daughters now. Chen just celebrated his 20th wedding anniversary. They're alive because you made the correct decision under the worst possible circumstances. Your father should have come home too. Yes, he should have, but not at the cost of 2 other fathers. You did the only thing you could do. You saved who could be saved. Rebecca met Iris's eyes. I'm sorry I blamed you. I'm sorry I made you carry that guilt for 13 years. And I'm sorry it took me this long to understand what you did that night was extraordinary, not criminal. Iris couldn't speak. I graduate medical school next year, Rebecca said. I'm applying for your fellowship program. I want to learn from you. I want to be able to make the impossible decisions the way you did, the right way. Rebecca, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. My father died in combat. That's what he signed up for. But 47 other men came home because you refused to quit on them. That's a legacy worth honoring. That's a skill worth learning. Iris looked at the young woman in front of her. 8 years old when she wrote that letter. Now 21, about to become a doctor. Asking to learn from the person she'd once called a murderer. If you apply, you'll be evaluated like everyone else, Iris said. No special treatment. I wouldn't want special treatment. Just a fair chance. Then apply. I'll look forward to reading your file. Rebecca smiled, extended her hand. Iris shook it. When Rebecca left, Iris sat alone in her office. The medical records lay open on her desk. Captain James Morrison, KIA, Helmand Province. She pulled the photograph from her desk drawer. The one Victor Hayes had given her. 12 soldiers, all alive, all home. 47 saves, 1 loss. She finally understood what Harrison had meant. You couldn't save everyone, but you could save someone, and that had to be enough. A knock at the door. Amara poked her head in. Trauma alert. Multi-vehicle collision. 8 casualties incoming. They're asking for you. Iris stood, pulled on her white coat. Let's go. They moved through the hospital corridors, past the residents she'd trained, past the simulation labs where future doctors learned to function under pressure, past the memorial wall where Victor Hayes had insisted they hang the photograph of her combat surgical team. The trauma bay was organized chaos. Nurses prepping, doctors reviewing protocols, everyone moving with purpose. Brennan saw her arrive. 8 patients, 3 critical, 4 serious, 1 minor. We've got full surgical staff available. I want you coordinating triage. Understood. The ambulances arrived. Sirens, shouting, controlled urgency. Iris moved between patients. Assessed, prioritized, assigned. Her voice calm, her hands steady. The same. Same skills she'd learned in deserts and mountains, now applied in a hospital with walls and electricity and all the resources anyone could want. Bay 1, tension pneumothorax. Chest tube now. Bay 2, internal bleeding, straight to OR. Bay 3, stable, CT scan for evaluation. Bay 4. She worked. The team responded. Every patient triaged correctly. Every decision made with certainty born from experience earned in the worst places on Earth. 2 hours later, all 8 patients were stabilized. 3 in surgery, 4 in ICU, 1 in observation. All alive, all with a chance. Iris stood in the now quiet trauma bay. Amara approached with coffee. All saves, Amara said quietly. 8 for 8. Good team, good resources, good luck, good leadership. Amara handed her the coffee. That's what makes the difference. Knowing who to put where, what to prioritize, when to push and when to back off. You can't teach that in a textbook. No, you learn it by doing it until the pattern recognition becomes automatic. Is that what you're teaching us? Pattern recognition? I'm teaching you to function when the patterns break down, when the textbook doesn't have an answer and you have to trust your training, your instincts, and your willingness to try when everyone else has given up. Iris sipped the coffee. Because that's when lives are saved, in the gap between what's supposed to work and what actually does. Victor Hayes appeared in the trauma bay entrance. He walked without assistance now, fully recovered. He visited every month, brought other veterans for treatment, and spent hours in the simulation lab telling students what field conditions were really like. Heard there was excitement, he said. 8-car pileup, everyone survived. Because you were here, because we have a good team. You always say that. Hayes smiled. But the team is good because you trained them. There's a difference between knowing protocols and knowing how to save lives. You teach the second one. Iris didn't argue. 6 months ago, she would have. Now she just accepted the compliment and moved on. Next veteran support group is Thursday, Hayes said. We've got 12 former combat medics and corpsmen interested in the program. Figured you'd want to meet them. I'll be there. Good. Hayes nodded to Amara. How's she treating you, Dr. Okonkwo? Like a drill sergeant with a medical degree. Perfect. That's exactly what you need. Hayes left. The trauma bay returned to standby status. Iris and Amara walked back toward the elevator. Do you ever miss it? Amara asked. The military, the missions, the intensity? Iris considered. I miss the clarity. In combat, the mission is obvious. Keep people alive until they can get definitive care. Here, the mission is more complex. Politics, liability, insurance, protocols. But the core is the same. Someone's life depends on your decision. That focus, that purpose, I carry that everywhere. They reached Iris's office. The photograph still sat on her desk. 12 soldiers, all home. Beside it now sat Marcus Wade's thank you card. A letter from Williams's daughter thanking her for saving her father. A commendation from the mayor for the trauma program's success. Evidence that the work mattered, that the choices, however impossible, had meaning. You changed your mind about something, Amara observed. When you started here, you were hiding. Now you're leading. What happened? Iris looked at the photograph. I stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to be useful. Turns out that's enough. The overhead speakers crackled. Dr. Cade to trauma bay. Priority 1 patient incoming. Iris grabbed her coat. Amara followed. They ran through the hallways. Another emergency. Another life hanging in the balance. Another chance to do what she'd been trained for in the worst places on Earth and perfected in the best. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics rushed in. Iris stepped forward, ready, calm, certain. Some people were born to save lives. Others were forged into it through fire and loss and impossible choices that left scars no one else could see. She was both. And she was exactly where she was meant to be. The monitor beeped. The patient breathed. The work continued. Always.